welcome. The Monday night game just ended last night, so just like every week, I'll hop in, go through some of these games, go through some college games, and just talk about the NFL and everything. So let's hop right in. Starting off with the Thursday night game, we had the Bears and Commanders. Not much really happened this game. Carson Wentz threw for 99 yards. Justin Fields kind of ran all over. There were some fun plays here and there, but overall, it was definitely like a forgettable game, you could say. Carson Wentz. Before I get into the Carson Wentz news, Justin Fields had a play. Basically, at the end of the half, it was weird. Ron Rivera went for like a 48-yard field goal, didn't get it. So then, the Bears, Justin Fields kind of like ran down the field, did all the, and then had it basically. They were on. I don't even remember. It was like maybe like the 3-yard line, and then all of a sudden, he throws a pass. It's caught by Mooney, but the way it was juggled and everything, gets tackled at the 1-yard line, and Bears find a way to lose. It's almost like I almost feel bad for Bears fans at this point. They just can't seem to get anything right, and if they have to, there's a difference when most teams lose. Some teams will lose, and they'll lose by a lot, and it's kind of like, oh, whatever, it's this and that. But for the Bears, it feels like every loss is just they find a way to make it heartbreaking and make the fans think that they're in it. Because I think Bears were 1-point favorite at one point, and then maybe became 1-point dogs. I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, that was definitely a game Bears fans probably could have won. And the Bears did just enough to give them hope during the game, and then the Commanders ended up coming up on top. Brian Robinson, I think, scored his first NFL touchdown, which is awesome for him after the whole getting shot and everything. And then the big storyline that's coming out of the game now is Carson Wentz broke his, ring finger. It's either ring finger or pointer finger. Regardless, he broke a finger. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So that's going to be interesting to see what changes around for the Commanders and what basically. That's going to make their team now because not saying he was bad, but they only had one win until that win against the Bears. So it's going to be interesting to see if the team changes around or anything. For the Vikings-Dolphins game, the Vikings I think went up 14-0 early, and then the Dolphins stormed back a little bit, and then Vikings still just managed to get the win. The big news out of this game is I think Tua should be coming back next week against the Steelers. So the Dolphins have had a little bit of slide since he's been out, and a lot of issues and everything with just the head injuries and all that and whatnot. But now with Tua coming back potentially, this could be good for the Dolphins if he's healthy, obviously, of course, which I assume he is if they're going to have him back. Regardless, this should be. That was a good one for the Vikings. The Vikings have been pretty impressive so far this year, and with the way the Packers have been winning right now, I think that's the Vikings' division to lose. Because, honestly, the Packers, I'll get into that game in a bit, but they look like they are kind of bad. And even though the Vikings have looked like they've had scary moments, they win games, so that's all that really matters. When it came to this week, though, there's honestly a lot of upsets. For example, in this game, the Falcons-49ers. 49ers were favored by a little bit. Everyone, I think, figured that the 49ers would win. And then, the Falcons ended up just handling business. The Falcons are starting to, be that team that everyone, I think, felt like the Panthers were going to be potentially. Where now, the Falcons might be the fringy NFC playoff team. It could be them, could be the Giants. We'll get the Giants a little bit. But overall, Falcons had a really good game. Mariota still looked pretty impressive. It's just hard right now. It's really hard to tell who separates himself in fantasy. Because I know the 49ers aren't the best of teams, and they were dealing with injuries at the defensive line and everything. But they're still really good teams. So the fact that the Falcons did that, that was kind of a shocking game to watch. I thought the 49ers should be able to handle business, and the fact that they didn't now, that's more eye-opening, I think, for the 49ers than the Falcons, because it shows that the 49ers are a bit susceptible to losing to some of these teams like this. And just now, when it comes to what's going to happen on the season for the 49ers, usually it felt like years past they were winning games like this, and now the fact that they aren't, it puts a little question marks on their team. And I just with Jimmy G at the helm, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if he's the answer. Obviously Trey Lance, we don't know what he could have done either, but with this 49ers team, it's going to be really weird going throughout the season now, especially after their loss this week. I came to the Cleveland Browns and Patriots. This game was a lot closer than it should, it says on the scoreboard. They basically, I think with the last 5 minutes, put up 3 or 4 touchdowns on the Browns to make it as bad a score it was. Regardless of the Browns got the run basically shut down by the Patriots. The Patriots looked very impressive throughout this win, and now potentially there might be a little bit of a quarterback controversy between Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. I don't think Bill Belichick's come out and said this for sure, but just knowing the past and the way that the reaction seemed to be from all the Patriots and everyone over there, there might be some controversy right there. The big thing coming out of this game, I think, Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick tied George Halas for second all time in wins as a coach, and I need to see who they play next week, but he's basically he's for sure going to get it within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would have to think, and that's a pretty cool thing to see. I mean, I don't know how many more times, in my lifetime, I'm going to see a coach pass another coach for the most wins all time. Might be lucky to happen towards the end of my life, but regardless, I mean, Bill Belichick's been a really, really successful coach, so, I mean, it was really, really cool to see him get that, even though as much as I hate the Patriots because of what they did to the Colts and everything, I mean, you gotta respect the great ones, and I mean, Bill Belichick is a really, really, really good coach, and so that's pretty cool to see that. And then basically for the Browns, I mean, 2 kind of heartbreaking losses back-to-back weeks. They're starting to become questionable. The Browns have lost their last 3 now, so they're on a bit of a slide. I mean, they're just trying to survive until Deshaun Watson gets back, and I mean, right now these last 3 games they haven't been really doing that. They need to step it up next week when they play. When it comes to the Steelers-Bucks, I mean, this game was just shocking. Kenny Pickett gets knocked out with a concussion early. Mitch Trubisky comes in late to clean it up. But the real question is about the outside stuff. I mean, there's rumors that Brady doesn't practice on Wednesdays, and then he apparently, I think, even skipped the Saturday walkthrough, but he for sure skipped the Friday walkthrough to go to a wedding for Robert Kraft. And I'm not saying that had anything to do with the loss, obviously. I just think that overall as the Bucs, they were kind of overlooking the Steelers a little bit because of how bad they have been. And it's how bad they've been looking this year. And then, the Steelers played a really good game and ended up winning. I mean, they did just enough to win. I mean, the Steelers held the Bucs offense to basically just kicking field goals all day. Tom Brady couldn't finish drives, and then the Steelers, to open the second half, got a huge kick return that basically they had a Najee Harris run that a penalty extended the drive, and Najee Harris scored later that drive, and then they had that kick return that basically put them in amazing field position. And past that, I mean, the Steelers just played well enough to win that game. I mean, I don't know. Tomlin did a good job managing that game and just kind of not giving the Bucs enough chances with the ball, and Tom Brady just couldn't finish his drives, and he's looked pretty poor to start this huge game. There's a scene of him just screaming and yelling at his offensive linemen. And I mean, he definitely, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the leniency or to get away with some of this stuff. I mean, he is the greatest of all time, so it's going to be hard, according to a lot of other people. And I mean, he has 7 Super Bowl rings, so, I mean, you can't deny how great he is, but just the way he's been acting and the stuff he's been doing, you wonder how much it, tolls on his teammates. Because you got to think when he plays a little bit poor and he's just yelling and screaming at the offensive line's face. I'm not deflecting blame on anyone, by the way. It's a whole team, so they got to win as a team. But you got to think that with Tom Brady missing practices and then just screaming and yelling at his players, that you got to think it starts to weigh on them a little bit, and they start to. I'm sure, by the way, he does stuff outside the building or outside the game, so make up for it and this and that. But you got to think that when he doesn't show up to practices here and there, and then he starts screaming and yelling when it's partially his fault, so you got to think it opens some eyes. When it comes to the Bengals-Saints, this was a pretty thrilling game. The Saints went up a little bit early, and the Bengals came back to win it. I mean, Jamar Chase had a really good day. We've been waiting for him to do this all season. Joe Burrow traveled too, where they played their national championship game, and he and Jamar Chase looked really good, like I said. And I mean, for the Saints, this wasn't that bad of a game. I mean, they had their moments here and there, but I think for the Bengals, this was a really much needed and huge win now, because the way they've been looking a little sketchy this year, not like the same team they were last year on their Super Bowl run. And I mean, good win for them. When it comes to the Saints, I really don't know what they're going to be this year, but I mean, with the way the Bucs have been playing, that division is wide open. Right now, I think it's basically between the Falcons and Bucs in that division, if I'm not mistaken, but I mean, the Saints, if they can get right and going, they can get something done. But I just mean between all the injuries right now, receiver, and then the whole Jameis issue and their quarterback issues, I mean, it's just hard to tell what this team is right now. I think they're just really struggling. I don't know what the Saints team's going to be, really. I don't know what's going to happen with the Saints team. So, I mean, a good win for the Bengals. I think it helps them in the division because I want to say they're tied for first now. I believe they should be tied for first, and then the winner. But either way, they're really close to the division, and the Browns-Ravens play next week, so this is a much-needed win by them because one of those teams, I think I think this division's like really close in general, to be honest. So I just mean anyone they can get is nice. And yeah, just for the Bengals, that was an impressive win. For the Saints, I really don't know what they are going to be. When it comes to here comes some of the shocking games. The Giants and Ravens. I mean, wow, let's go New York. The Giants look amazing and impressive right now. I mean, for how limited their roster seems to be, especially like the wide receiver position, and like how defensively they don't have like a bunch of huge name guys. They just have a bunch of like really good players. I mean, their coaching has been what's been setting them apart from a lot of these other teams. And when it comes to this issue of like coaching, I mean, you can see it across the league. Some of these coaches are really, really struggling right now and not making the best play to call decision, the best decision in general. And it just for the Giants, it's the opposite. It seems that Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale are just both being super, super effective coaches and just doing what they need to do. This was a revenge game for Wink as he played against. He played for the Ravens. Obviously, he didn't play for the Ravens. He coached for the Ravens, and They didn't like run him out of town, but they basically like had him leave, and then now he's with the Giants, and the Giants have looked amazing, and the Ravens defense has been questionable. But regardless, I just mean really, really amazing game by the Giants. The Ravens, I mean, they played all right. They played good. As the game got closer, you were just watching it, and it's just like, are the Giants actually going to be able to win this? Like, I mean, there was a chance they could win it, right? Obviously, because it's an NFL team, but you're just sitting there. It's like, no way they're actually going to be able to win it, right? And they've just stayed close the whole game, and then they got that huge strip sack by Kayvon Thibodeau on Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson also had a bad interception that day, too. And, I mean, what ended up happening then after that is the Giants score Saquon, and they end up winning 24-20. I mean, the Giants have been really, really impressive. I mean, the takeaway from this game is, like, how the Ravens, like, played in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think the more of the takeaway is just, like, how impressive the Giants have been. They've been really effective at, like, putting games away this year, keeping them close, and having the belief system that they can win. I mean, it's all the coaching and everything. If you watch Brian Daboll, I mean, he is just juiced on the sideline. He's pumped to like be there. He's actually using Daniel Jones right, it seems like. So yeah, now between the Giants, I think the Giants might be second in the division now because the Cowboys should have 2 losses. But because of the tiebreaker, the Cowboys still might have them. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, I mean, the NFC East is looking like a really, really good division this year. For another shocking game, the Jets beat the Packers. And I mean, I think it might be starting to become full panic mode for Packers fans. I mean, this game was 3-3 going in the half, basically, I believe. Or I don't know for sure if it's 3-3 going in the half, but at one point, very close to half, it was 3-3. And I just remembering, oh no, that's definitely not a good sign. And then sure enough, the Jets just... I don't know. I just don't know if the issue is more of like the Packers are not as good as we think they are, or if the Jets are just that good. I mean, first off, Breece Hall is an absolute dude. He is insane. He's a really good running back. He plays really, really hard and plays really well. And Sauce Gardner, amazing cornerback. I mean, it seems like the Jets really won the draft this year. Like, it's not very often, like, the Jets fans have been getting excited about the drafts recently, and their guys coming in right away and playing. But, I mean, Breece Hall is basically taking over that starting running back job with how good he's been playing. And Sauce Gardner has just been amazing on the other end defensively. He had a really, really good play against Allen Lazard where he knocked the ball after it looked like he was burnt, and he just played it perfectly. And then after the game, Allen Lazard knocked the cheese head off Sauce Gardner's head. And Sauce Gardner was walking around the field with it and everything. I mean, this Jets team just has a swagger right now. And then Robert Saleh on the sideline looks like he's having a great time. I mean, this Jets team is, like, starting to become legit now. I mean, obviously they're in Buffalo's division, so... probably going to be hard to win, but we might see 2 playoff teams out of this AFC East division. Because, I mean, the Patriots have a few wins now. And they're looking really good. I mean, or not really good, but they're looking good enough. I mean, the Jets are looking good enough as a football team. I mean, it's very interesting now with that division. And then when it comes to the Packers, I mean, I don't know what is going on with them. They just look awful. Rodgers doesn't look like he's on the same page with his receivers all the time, and that's definitely something that can be fixed throughout the season, but with how they've looked at early season the past few years versus how they look now, it's definitely something to worry about. For the afternoon games, the Cardinals lose to the Seahawks, and I mean, the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker looks really good. I mean, he ran basically all over the Cardinals. I think he had over 100 yards on the ground. He had a touchdown, I believe. And yeah, for the Cardinals, I mean, when it comes to the coaching, I mean, they could have made it 9-9 if they kick field goals, but instead they go for it and they don't get it. This Cardinals team has been without D-Hop, has just been very, very subpar. And it looks like Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler are just not on the same page at this point. It seems like it's almost inevitable if they keep playing like this that one of them is going to end up gone. But the fact that the Cardinals get D-Hop back next week, I mean, that's a promising sign. The fact that Cardinals get D-Hop back next week, that's a promising sign because, I mean, they really need him to stretch the field. But another issue is they lost Hollywood Brown for a little bit with a foot injury. Thankfully, it was rumored to be a full season for about 3 or 4 hours. He was done for the season yesterday, but then all of a sudden they came out and said, nope, it's not as bad as we thought it was. He's only going to miss about, I think it's like 6 weeks maybe, so that's not bad. And then, so a bridge to this other game, so I'll mention the Cardinals trade in a minute, but for the Seahawks, it was just another impressive win. But Geno's just been a really, really good game manager. He's not losing them the games. I mean, like, I don't think he had a touchdown pass yesterday, but he made all the plays he really needed to make to keep them in the lead and winning the game. And with the help of the Cardinals' bad coaching decisions, I mean, they were able to get a win. And, I mean, that's good for the Seahawks. That division's basically wide open. The Rams are being really questionable right now. We don't know how they are. Cardinals don't look the best. Niners look awful. And, I mean, that's anybody's division right now. So if the Seahawks can get it together, they might be able to do good. And then bridging into the Carolina Rams game, the Cardinals got Robbie Anderson from the Panthers. And before we just get that, I mean, we don't need to talk much about this game. Rams beat the Panthers. We know the Panthers are a dumpster fire, but the story that comes from this game right now is the whole Robbie Anderson incident. If you watched Sunday, he was getting into verbal argument. Robbie Anderson got traded to the Cardinals. They were basically looking to trade him as soon as they got rid of Matt Rule, and it basically just came all to a head on the sidelines. Basically Robbie Anderson, I think got into an altercation with, the receivers coach first, and then he ended up getting an altercation with the interim head coach, and then the interim head coach had to kick him off the sidelines. It was just a wild scene, honestly. It was very, very shocking. Just usually you don't see very many blow-ups like that, especially in the NFL. Usually if they do, they try to keep it in-house as much as they can. So when you see the few blow-up events all throughout the year, it's just very shocking. There's one picture of basically Robbie Anderson sitting on a Gatorade cooler away from the rest of his teammates while the whole rest of the offense is going through get the game plan and everything. And that's basically when you knew it was done. There's rumors Christian McCaffrey might get traded. There's rumors DJ Moore might get traded. I mean, this team is just... yeah, there are just a lot of issues with them right now. Everyone thought this might be the dark horse team for the playoffs, but now with Baker hurt, not playing the best, Sam Darnold hurt, Matt Corral hurt, now PJ Walker hurt. I mean, they're down to their fifth string quarterback. I mean, this team is basically they're probably done for this season the way it's looking, and they're probably one of the few teams you can say that aren't going to make the playoffs for sure, but you never know. But yeah, it's starting to look like the Panthers might be in a mix of a rebuild/selling. For the game I did skip, the Colts-Jaguars. I mean, Jaguars led for most of the second half, I think by double digits almost, but they were for sure up in the second half, and it looked like the Colts might lose them again, and then Matt Ryan had a day. I mean, before I get to that, Deion Jackson, the backup for the Colts, I think had 10 targets. He had 10 targets in the receiving game. He had a decent amount of carries, and he had over 100 all-purpose receiving yards. He's looked really good in the absence of JT, but now he's hurt, so hopefully JT can be able to come back this week because the Colts running back situation has just been awful with the injuries. But, I mean, this was really, really good game by the Colts towards the end when they started picking up. Matt Ryan threw to Pittman all day, and he had career high in receptions and receiving yards. I think he had 13 for 136 or 34 or something like that. Trevor Lawrence had 2 rushing touchdowns, and he, I think, was 22 for 24, 16 for 80. He only missed 2 passes all game. So I'm sure he's pretty disappointed in the losing effort. But the big MVP of the game was definitely Matt Ryan. I mean, he threw, I think, almost 50 times, and along with passing Dan Marino for 7th all-time in passing yards. He threw the game-winning touchdown, led his 4th game-winning drive of the year, and, I mean, it's crazy what you do when you can block him. I mean, they blocked for him pretty much, all day today, and he was able to, have a semi-clean pocket, and he was able to play probably one of the best he's played all season. And on 3rd and 13, with basically the game on the line, the Colts needed points bad, and they throw a go ball to Alec Pierce. He catches his first touchdown pass of the year, and basically the Colts go on to win it 34-27. And I mean, it was just a very, very impressive win for the Colts. I mean, they, like I said, now they're 3-2-1. The Colts are 3-2-1, but they could have been so much better than that. But I mean, just the fact that they've been able to save their season a little bit, because last year they started off with 1-5. So this year they're already off to a bit of a better start, and Frank Reich's teams are known to get hot later and start doing a little bit better later. So I mean, it's just as a Colts fan, it gets pretty nerve-wracking to watch them sometimes just be down all game, and then all of a sudden they just pull something out of their ass and win. But it was, regardless, I'm just happy the Colts won. They're getting their ship right back on track, and they have a chance now. Next week they go and they play the Titans, and that game's for the division, so that should be a lot of fun. And now for the game of the week, the Bills beat the Chiefs, and I mean, first half basically was kind of like a defensive battle. It ended with Butker kicking like a 62-yard field goal to make it 10-10, and then the Bills just basically, I mean, it was just like both teams basically didn't give up any like big plays. They just have everything happen under the middle, or over the middle and underneath, all that. That's all that happened, and then it came down to basically like the Bills scored a touchdown, the Chiefs get it with a little bit back, and you just like, this is how you know, like, it's been weird. I don't think the Chiefs have been kind of like the same team as they've been in years past, just because like usually in situations like that with a minute left, you're like, oh, they're getting the ball, they're definitely going to score. This Bills team seems to have just taken that right away from them, because the second the Chiefs got the ball and watched the game, it's like, man, the fact that that kind of sucks that the Bills scored a touchdown, because I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to do anything. And sure enough, their drive lasts 13 seconds, Mahomes throws a pick and the game's over. I mean, Josh Allen played as well as he could. I think Mahomes might have thrown for a little bit more than him, but both quarterbacks played really, really well. Juju had a really good game for the Chiefs. For the Bills, Stephon Diggs had a really good game. And Dawson Knox got his first touchdown of the year after all the tragedy he's been through and everything, so that was awesome to see for him. It's just, this Bills team looks like they are legit. Von Miller had 2 sacks on defense. I think getting Von Miller basically, I think, flipped the switch they needed really, really bad. Because, I mean, this Bills team is just undeniably amazing now. And then for the last bit from that game, that's kind of cool. Jordan Poyer, he was cleared to play but couldn't travel because of his ribs. And they're worried about air pressure and collapsing his lung with his rib injury. So he had to drive 15 hours to the game and back. So, thankfully they get a bye this week, so the driving's not as terrible and taxing on him. But that just shows the commitment to be willing to drive 15 hours there and then back. It's just awesome to see for the Bills. I mean, they look best record in the AFC, and they look unstoppable. Now it comes to the Monday night game. This game ended up being an OT quote-unquote thriller. The Chargers played the Broncos. I mean, Russell Wilson looked amazing to start out, 10 for 10 to start. He hit Dulcich for a touchdown. And then after that, I think he went like 5 for 17 for 72 yards, started to fall. He looked really, there's some moments where Russ showed flashes and he looked like he was going to be really good. And there was just other times he looked like how he has all season. He's just held the ball too long. He hasn't got rid of it, this and that. And then when it comes to the Chargers, this was just shocking for them. I mean, I know they don't have Keenan Allen, but this is supposed to, I know the Broncos defense is really good as well, and this is a divisional game, but this was a game where you thought they maybe should have put up a little bit more than they did. I mean, Justin Herbert didn't throw for a touchdown, which is kind of surprising. I mean, you felt like that should have been like almost a gimme. Eckler did have his touchdown, and he became, I think, the second person ever in NFL history to have 25 rushing, 25 receiving for his first 50. But, I mean, it's just the Chargers got a good win out of this, and it's going to be interesting about Hopkins. Hopkins is the hero of the day. I mean, it looked like he was in pain all night. And whatever he went through, he fought. His season, I don't know what's going to happen with this season. I'm not going to speculate, but there's something wrong with the back of his kicking leg. And he put up like 3 or 4 monster kicks after getting hurt. So that was awesome for him. The Cowboys played the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles went up basically 17-0 early. And it looked like it was over. Then the Cowboys did a little bit to march back after the Eagles lost Lane Johnson. But then they ended up not. I mean, there's not really much to talk about. Eagles are 6-0 still. They look really, really good. And now looking at their schedule, there's a real chance. The fact this was one of the harder games they'll play all season because of the schedule they got. So now the undefeated watch is starting to become really, really intriguing because there's people saying they don't have a hard game again until week 10. And we'll look through their schedule a little bit as we go on here and there. But I mean, they look like they might be a legit team. Obviously, the NFL's fun and the games can turn out to be fun, but just from matchup wise this week, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that very many interesting games. Tua coming back for the Dolphins, that's going to be interesting to see on Sunday night to see how he plays. But I mean, the Cardinals, they get D-Hop back, that's going to be interesting to watch, see for that. The Colts game's going to be interesting to watch to see who, because that's a divisional game, to see who's going to be number 1 in the division. I mean, even then that game might not be the most fun to watch. And they're just looking across Bears Patriots Monday night, that's Chiefs 49ers, the way the 49ers have been playing, it's just it's not as exciting as it could have been. Chargers Seahawks might be a sneaky good one. Jets Broncos will probably be a very interesting one. as well. And then I just mean, like, looking across, yeah, the Browns, maybe the Ravens-Browns, because I think the winner might get division, first place in division right there in that game, so that may be another interesting one. But, I mean, overall, just, there's a lot of games that are just, like, could be forgettable this week, honestly. But regardless, the NFL's fun. We'll see what happens. And, I mean, there should be some positive games, hopefully. Because, I mean, obviously there's always those surprising games here and there, but I just don't know which one it's going to come from this week. Quickly going over the top 10 from last week. Quickly going over, like, the top 25 from last week. Illinois still looking strong, beats Minnesota. Ole Miss. That game got delayed for a bit, but Ole Miss seemed like they were control majority of the game. Penn State got absolutely blown out by Michigan. Michigan might be legit. Tennessee survives the scare with Iowa State. It's going to be interesting to see how they do moving forward. Georgia absolutely blows out Vanderbilt. Syracuse beats NC State, and NC State's probably done because Devin Leary tore his pec. So he's out for the season, so that probably is going to be sucky for them. Tulane looks like they're going to be ranked now after beating South Florida, so that's good for them. I think UNC will probably come in at about like 25-24. They should be ranked now as well. Kentucky beats Mississippi State. A very impressive win for them right there. Clemson beats Florida State. That game was 34 to like 14 at one point, so it got way closer than it should have been. Utah, on a thriller game, it seems like, upset. I didn't get to watch that game, but Utah beat USC by 1. That seems like a really good win, first off, for Utah. That seems like a really fun game to watch. And then the two, in my opinion, my two favorite games of the day, TCU coming back from down 24-3 beats Oklahoma State in double OT. And, Oklahoma State basically gave them every chance to win that game, and TCU finally took advantage of it in the second half. And then the game of the day was Tennessee upsetting Alabama. I mean, that was an amazing football game to watch, just back and forth. Funny enough for me, though, I was watching Alabama try to kick the game-winning kick, and I don't know if it happened to anybody else, but it cut to Jeopardy for me. Like, literally, cut to the Jeopardy entrance, or cut to the Jeopardy intro. It played, like, maybe 10 seconds of it, and then they go show the replay for the kick, and the Alabama guy missed it. And then, sure enough, Clemson goes down to win it. Tennessee goes down, and then they kick the game-winning field goal. It was just wild and funny that moment happened. But, I mean, awesome win for Tennessee. First time in the last 15 matchups they won, and it's just huge game for them. Going into the next week, it doesn't seem like there's that many matchup. Tennessee, that might be a letdown game potentially a little bit, but they should be able to handle business against them. Clemson, Syracuse looks like it might be a good game. Ohio State should handle Iowa. Ole Miss, LSU is going to be interesting. I'm kind of surprised LSU is favorite, honestly. And then Wake Forest is back after a bye. Penn State dropped to 16. 8, TCU versus Kansas State should be a fun game. Alabama versus Alabama versus Mississippi State, that might be a fun game. It's a big spread, but we'll have to see. And then Texas going to Oklahoma State, that's a good bounce-back spot for Oklahoma State. And then UCLA, Oregon rounds out the ranked matchups. So if you see, there's actually a decent amount of ranked matchups next week. So hopefully between college and the NFL, because I know the NFL matchups are a bit like mixy right now, we have a fun set of stuff for the week. Yeah, I mean, the way it's looking, it should be a fun college Saturday. It's going to be fun to see if we have a very fun NFL Sunday as well.